I am so glad you convinced me that the family car should be the Defender 110. It is so beautiful inside. It's so comfortable and it just feels indestructible.
Yes, it really is. I've been waiting a long time for the new model to come out. The Defender 110, I'm telling you, it's my favorite car of all times. It's my third one. You know, I have stories of going off-road. The guy managed the group. He was like, what are you doing in this beautiful car? I'm like, I'm going off-road. He's like, are you sure? Because you can use one of ours. And then they look like Mad Max cars. I'm like, no, we're going to do this. And he was shocked.
Wow. Well, it's great because the Defender has been reimagined for 21st century adventure, and its unparalleled off-road ability as well as its robust interior are invaluable whether you're headed towards uncharted territory or just a weekend of exploration. The Defender 110 tackles challenging surroundings with absolute confidence. The SUV conveys strength outside and in, featuring peerless technology like an intuitive driver display and an award-winning infotainment system. That's my favorite part, to keep you connected no matter where the journey takes you. Adventure is unique to everyone, and so is the Defender. Choose from the two-door Defender 90, the four-door Defender 110, or the larger Defender 130 with the ability to seat up to 8 passengers. You'll find uncompromising performance in all three. So pack up and go even further with the Defender 110. Learn more at LandRoverUSA.com/Defender.
These days, we're all investors, trying to be smart with our money despite our worst impulses. But at iShares, we believe that deep down inside of every investor is a better investor. One that's just waiting to be let out. Explore iShares ETFs and insights and let your best investor out. Visit iShares.com for more information.
This isn't your average business podcast, and he's not your average host. This is the James Altucher Show. Today on the James Altucher Show.
So back in 2002, Edward Zuckerberg, Mark Zuckerberg's father, gave him a very interesting choice. I'm going to describe what this choice is to both Jay, the producer of this podcast, and Robyn, my wife, and see what choice they would have made. And you should think about it too, what choice you would make, and if you would make a similar type of offer that Edward Zuckerberg made to Mark Zuckerberg when he was 18 years old, way before Facebook, before he went to college. What choice would you have chosen? Let's go to Jay and Robyn. So, Jay and Robyn, here is the question I have for you guys. Okay. Let's say, Jay, you first. Let's say you're about to go to college and your dad comes up to you and says, or your mom, but let's just say your dad. Your dad comes up to you and says, Jay, I'm giving you a choice. You could either go to Harvard and I will pay the whole way through Harvard, or I will buy you a McDonald's franchise and the McDonald's franchise is yours. You can do with it whatever you want. You could run a McDonald's franchise. And just so you know, the average McDonald's franchise owner makes about $200,000 a year, but because your father is buying it for you, you would make more than that because you wouldn't have to deal with, you know, the rent and interest costs and stuff like that.
Right. Okay, so you're asking me
so
which one will I
choose?
choose?
You'd make like $300,000 or $400,000 a year, maybe.
Right. Okay, so you're asking me which one will I choose? So
yeah, and you're 18 years old, Harvard or McDonald's franchise. And let me just say in advance, Mark Zuckerberg's dad made him this offer.
Okay, just to put it out there. So I'm trying to think as a white person and not an Asian without Asian parents.
No, Jay, think as you. This is you.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, because like I just wanted to say that scenario would never happen because my parents are Asian, so like they would never give me that options. But if it's me, I mean, right now I would take the McDonald's route rather than the Harvard route.
Why is that?
Well, because like I want like how much you
so
can
all your friends be going off to Harvard and
right.
like having fun, going to parties, and then they're going to graduate and they're going to have a Harvard degree. Maybe who knows how much a Harvard degree makes. And actually, let me just look. You know, I should have Googled this in advance, but how much does the average Harvard graduate make? Pops up right away, that question. Oh, the average makes, the first year out, they make $90,000 a year.
90,000 a year, but if my franchise is successful, I could make more than 100,000 a year.
Yeah,
Well, they
you'll
are
make-
still in school.
At
Well,
least
they're still in
200.
school, you know.
Right. Well, they're
Yeah,
still
at least
in
in
school,
school.
yeah.
Well, they're still in
So
school.
just to break it down, the average, wait, where is this? I have all my notes. The average McDonald's franchise, and this is just average, so some make more, some make less. The average McDonald's franchise has net sales of $2.7 million. That means that's how much, hamburgers and
shit.
stuff they sell per year.
Just one franchise, as in one restaurant, one chain.
Yeah. On
Okay.
average. Some make less, some
On
make more.
average.
2.7 million a year. And then you have expenses. So
Right.
First off, you have to pay for food. You have to pay
Right.
for paper, like the plates are
Right.
paper and stuff. And that comes to about almost $1 million. And then you have to pay, your employees, the manager, the taxes, advertising. That's kind of controllable though. You could hire fewer people, you can pay
Right.
less taxes. And then you have to pay rent and interest expense, but I'm taking that off. So and you have to pay for your license, you have to pay McDonald's, kind of a franchise fee every year. So again, this is all rough because some of these expenses you can control. That's why I'm saying the actual average McDonald's franchisor or franchisee makes $153,000 a year, but because Mark Zuckerberg's dad is going to buy it for him, and let's say he doesn't have to pay rent or the fees or whatever, and he doesn't have to pay interest, he'll make a little bit more than $153,000. He'll make maybe $300,000.
Right. Well, the other question is, so let's say if I do go that route, it's only 150,000 a year. I wonder how much I can scale off that. Like, I wonder if it's gonna be 150,000 for the rest of my life, or maybe.
No, assume it goes up with inflation because the prices of the French fries goes up, and
Right.
and also, then if you own a McDonald's franchise, there's various things you can do. First off, a McDonald's franchise is one of the most reliable franchises
Right.
of anything. Like if you got an Applebee's franchise, for instance, you might be screwed because Applebee's might go out of business. But
Right.
McDonald's is never going out of business. So this is a pretty stable kind of franchise. And McDonald's is a pretty stable audience. Like,
Right.
McDonald's as a company makes something like $39 billion a year.
Right.
Most of that from the franchises. And because he's buying you the franchise, already what the historical value of that franchise is. It's been making money, let's say, for 10 years. It's in a good location. Your dad's buying it for you. You're not starting one from scratch. And, I just want to add also, if you're entrepreneurial, you can use the cash flow from one franchise to go to the bank and borrow money to buy other franchises. So you can actually build a business owning a whole bunch of franchises, and then that will help you save money on buying. You'll get discounts on buying like the trays and the food and all that kind of stuff.
Well, I guess also the other benefit of running a McDonald's franchise is like you don't have to be there 24. You don't have to be there 24/7. Like it could be one of your passive income. Like passively, we will get.
I'm not so sure, but you could be right because
Yeah.
you have to at least hire a manager then. So that
Yeah.
will. But if you own like 3 or 4 franchises, you don't have to be at each store obviously
Yeah.
all the time because it's impossible. So you'd hire some managers, but overall you're saving money because you're combining costs. And you're making more money because you have more than one franchise, and
Right.
so you can afford to hire managers. So you could be building a business, a franchise business.
So here's my answer. I would like to do both. I would take my dad's offer, and then I would pay for Harvard myself.
But wait, how would you pay for Harvard yourself? Your dad, he's buying the McDonald's. He's not giving you money.
Right, but see, after a year, I could make the money, and then I
Right.
can slowly pay for my own.
What if you can't do that? What if Harvard's going to withdraw their offer to you if you don't take their offer right now? None of this both
Okay,
shit.
so-
You can't cheat on this question.
I guess what James meant is like if you have the decision to make right away.
This is Sophie's
it wasn't
choice.
Like
Which
Okay.
one of
Yeah,
your
yeah.
children are going to a concentration camp, except it's not that.
Oh,
It's McDonald's or Harvard.
wait, is that
Okay,
what the Sophie
so
is about?
you know what? I'm going to say Harvard.
Okay.
And why is that?
So I'm thinking because I may not want to be in the restaurant business, and I'm 18. I don't know. So I feel like if I go to college or I go to Harvard, I can just take more time to figure out what I want to do, and I can network.
Well, so that's the same choice, obviously, that Mark Zuckerberg made. And, Warren Buffett's advice is investing in yourself is the best investment you can do. Invest in anything that improves your own talents, particularly at that age, because you don't know what your potential is. If you just keep investing in yourself and building your talents, you're going to make far more than 6 figures a year, particularly if you're starting at that age. Now, I think for me, at least, I didn't start investing in myself till later because I kind of wasted my time in college, I think. And I think a lot of people do. So that's the question. If you run a McDonald's franchise during those 4 years, A, you'll save money instead of spending the money or your parents spending the money. And B, although your parents will have bought the franchise, so that doesn't matter. But you will learn how to run a business, which is a very hard skill. And everybody else will just learn European studies or whatever, cultural history.
Right. I guess that's the. I guess I guess there's a pro and cons right there, right? But because a lot of the college students that I met, they don't exactly have the what do you call it, the life skill, like the skill to survive or something like that.
Yeah, like
a skill.
And again, as I've said on this, maybe I've said this on this podcast before. I've certainly written about it. I majored in computer science, and then in my first corporate job, I was so bad at programming that they had to send me to remedial school for 2 months to learn how to program. It was embarrassing.
Your first year, like even right now, how many years now? I still have to help you set up your computer. I should have to say, like, James, clack.
He just doesn't want to do it.
Every time we log in, it'll be like Michael Dell on the screen, and Michael Dell has to wait for me to get my microphone working.
That actually
Michael
happened.
Dell,
That's so funny.
That actually happened.
Michael Dell, if he dropped $1 million on the ground, it wouldn't. He would make more money just to continue walking rather than pick up the $1 million. And he has to wait like 3 minutes for me to like get my microphone working.
Yeah. I'm like, James, you have to change that. I mean, like, I don't blame James, like things evolve, but the thing is, like, James also hasn't been in computer science for a while now. So
Right.
Yeah, but even when I went to graduate school in computer science. I studied computer science for 5 years, and I programmed and I had programming jobs. I had like 6 programming jobs in school, though, in an academic environment. And I even had a published academic paper on AI and programming and all this. And then I get to a job. My title is junior IT programmer, and my boss comes into my cubicle. Everyone's listening, and he says, "Look, we really don't want you to fail, but you suck, and you have to go to remedial classes. We'll set it up for you." And so I had to like go to southern New Jersey. There was an AT&T facility,
right.
And I don't know. I guess HBO had to deal with AT&T to take their classes, and I learned all this basic stuff. How come I didn't learn it in college? So what I'm saying is, I think I would have chosen the McDonald's, because then, Robyn, to your point, you can do something on the side. You just can't go to Harvard. I would maybe have learned programming on the side. There's always, people always say, "Oh, I have no time." There's always time to do what you love. You don't have to have a job doing it. You don't have to go to school for it. There's always time to do what you love.
Right.
And if people listening to this say, no, I have no time, there's the kids, the mortgage, there's this, don't watch TV 2 hours a night. Don't go, the average person spends 4 hours a day on social media. I mean,
my friend, my friend used to tell me this, tell me this analogy all the time. Time is like the sand in the bottle. Like no matter how much in a bottle, in a jar, no matter how big of a stone that you put it in, like you can always fit sand in there.
That's true.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like, there's always time to do something.
The average person spends 2 hours and 25 minutes per day on social media. And then the average person watches TV. I know we watch TV for probably like 2 hours a day. So there's always some time to do the things you love. Even if it's like, I know, the woman who wrote the movie Pitch Perfect, which was a huge movie, she wrote 1 page a day of that screenplay on the subway on her commute to work. So
Really?
and David Levine, who was a mystery writer who has been on this podcast, he would he would commute into work. He would look at all the people on the train just sleeping or doing nothing, and so he wrote a couple pages a day of his first mystery novel. And
Right.
yeah, so there's always time. So okay, I would run the McDonald's and I would learn about business. I would learn about managing employees. I would learn about execution and saving costs. And, I'd make, 300,000 a year. Maybe I would get excited about not McDonald's, but I'd get excited about business. So I'll buy other franchises and use the cash flow to buy a Subway franchise, a Panera franchise, all these things. And,
Right.
there's one company, the biggest owner of McDonald's franchises is a company called Arcos. That guy, that company's worth $1.9 billion owning
Holy
McDonald's
crap.
franchises. And he did it because his dad owned 2 Burger King franchises, and he wanted to buy like a mansion on some Greek island. And so he called his son and said, "Son, have the bank wire me. I need $2 million. Have the bank wire it to me." The bank did it that day because the cash flow off of the Burger King franchises was so trustworthy. There was no background checks needed or anything like that. They just sent $2 million.
I guess that's a great motivations right there, right? If you want to buy mention a Greek, just buy Burger King.
Yeah,
That's how
but start a
that's just how
Burger
you
King
want
or
to
go
get.
own a
Yeah.
Burger King franchise. Now,
Yeah.
and I know another guy. He used to be like the number 2 or number 3 guy at Domino's. So this is a guy I was in business with for a while, and it was a bad deal. I lost my money, but I learned one thing from him. He used to be the number 2 or 3 guy at Domino's, and at one point, so he saw all the franchises. His job was to kind of monitor all the franchises, and he saw there was one chain of franchises. This guy owned about 30 Domino's franchises in Florida near Tampa Bay or near Tampa, and the franchises were going out of business. They were losing money, so he had to go down there and see what was wrong. And he saw that A, they were slow in delivering pizzas, and B, sometimes the pizzas were not circular. They were like oddly shaped. And he said, just make a circular pizza and you'll make your money. So he got permission from his boss to buy the franchises. He quit his job at Domino's to become a franchise owner. He bought these 30 franchises. He made like millions and millions of dollars in just a few years and then retired.
Right. So I have a questions for you. Like, I mean, now we're still on the franchise topic. I know we're gonna go on another topic. Have you guys seen the recent like supply chain issues?
Yes.
So I'm just curious. Like, do you think like owning a franchise right now is still a good idea because of all the supply chain issues?
Okay, so let me just summarize what the supply chain issues are. Because
Right.
of the pandemic and because of shutdowns in various countries, including China, that the places where the U.S. let's say Walmart normally gets its products are all shut down. The factories are shut down. The factories that make the components of like other products, they're shut down. So let's say Apple factories are open. They're ready to make Apple computers, but some semiconductor factory in Korea is closed. You can't make the computers. You don't get the computers. So
Yeah.
So
Also, there's travel restrictions as well. So like it's harder for some product to get to some other country because of
right. And not
because
only
of
that,
the
there's such
travel
a
restrictions.
backlog of in the supply chain. There's something like 100 ships.
Yeah, sitting in China.
Yeah, sitting in the port of LA, which is the largest
And
port.
China.
So ships aren't even getting in to distribute their products. And by the way, this is like housing prices in part are going up because lumber during the pandemic, nobody was cutting down trees. So
Right.
there's a shortage of lumber. So there's more than one reason why there's supply chain issues. In some cases, it's because the factories are closed. In some places, it's because nobody was doing the things required to make the products, like cutting down trees. So anything from paper to housing prices to wooden desks or whatever are the prices are going up because lumber got more expensive. Now, that's all temporary though. Eventually the factories open up. Lumber is already 50% lower than its peak price. So, oil's coming down. So eventually all of these supply chain people were saying, "Oh, see, this is inflation from money printing." That's not true. It was inflation, temporary inflation, because demand right now is unnaturally high because people have not been demanding these things for a year, and supply is unnaturally low. So has nothing to do with the normal kind of economic inflation. This is purely a
Okay.
supply and demand inflation that's temporary. Inflation that's caused by problems in supply and demand get adjusted because prices go so high that demand goes down, or the supply chain gets fixed, so supply goes up again. So this is all a situation that's getting fixed, like lumber is getting fixed. So yes, Jay, what is a risk that I would think about is that, listen, a lot of restaurants went out of business during the pandemic. Robyn, you were just telling me there's a list of restaurants, big chains that are going out of business. You mentioned Applebee's on that list.
Wait. Is it their franchise or is like
Some of them
their
are franchises. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So it's not the whole Applebee's gone. Like we wouldn't have.
No.
Applebee's
It's the
tomorrow.
whole
I think it's the-
major restaurant chains that closed in 21 or are closing. Now they're not closing all of their locations, but okay. California Pizza Kitchen, which was an excellent franchise. Friendly's, which I remember as a kid was my favorite place to go. Ruby Tuesday, which is a popular casual dining place.
Oh no!
Yeah.
Wow. This list says Chuck E. Cheese.
No, Chuck E. Cheese.
Oh yeah. In June 2020, they filed for bankruptcy, and they would
No more
permanently be
arcade.
closing over 30 of its locations. But here's the thing: when these companies when they go bankrupt, what it means is their debt gets canceled, and all the shareholders are wiped out. But then the court restructures the debt, so it's a little easier for them. So they close 30 of its locations, but they still operate 500 locations. So they go out of business, but sometimes there are different kinds of bankruptcy. Chapter 11 is when you cancel your debt and you have to rework it, and the court, like California Pizza Kitchen operates 200 locations. They close permanently 46 of them. So not all of them. And I don't know if these are company owned or franchises. Denny's is not going out of business. Dunkin' Donuts is not going out of business.
I have Dunkin' Donuts every morning. Please don't go
No,
out of
it's
business.
okay.
I need that.
I like donuts. But Denny's, I don't know. I haven't been there in a while.
Oh, I haven't. Been
Denny's
there in a while.
awful. I used to like the stock back in 2004, but I hate it now. I hate the food.
Maybe some of these need to go out of business because they're so unhealthy.
Well, they're all unhealthy. So I mean, and of course, McDonald's is like a cliche to say it's unhealthy ever since Morgan Spurlock did that movie, Super Size Me.
Oh, yeah.
You remember that movie?
Yeah.
For 30 days, he ate nothing but McDonald's, and he gained 25 pounds, and he actually had like medical problems with his liver.
Oh, my God.
But he probably ate like really, he was making a movie, so he's probably made the worst choices. But something like the Shamrock Shake at McDonald's has like something like 100 grams of sugar, like twice what you're supposed to have per day. Or somebody said that's like eating 6 slices of bread simultaneously.
Oh, my God.
Freaking God.
Like just one Shamrock Shake. But we already know that. It's like if you go to McDonald's, you know what you're getting into.
Right.
Right. I mean, I haven't. I don't think I ever. I haven't like ordered like their sugary stuff from McDonald's. I mean, I still have
Well,
some
their French fries have
nuggets.
sugar in them. That's why they're so good.
So, but look at McDonald's. First off, there are over 14,000 McDonald's restaurants in the U.S. 200 of them closed during the pandemic, but they were all mostly located in Walmart stores because I guess Walmart's was closed, so they couldn't really do business. And I don't think those are franchises. I think McDonald's owns those. So McDonald's owns a lot of their stores, but they make much more profit from the franchise owners because the franchise owners just give them money. Franchise owners buy the food from McDonald's and also pay to be a franchise. So it's like 80% profit margin, whereas the restaurants they own, there's a 16% profit margin.
Well, plus they own the real estate.
owns also a lot of the real estate.
That's what I said.
Right.
Yeah, so they own an enormous amount of real estate, and that's
the business they're in is a real estate.
Yeah, I mean, they're in both because for the franchising makes $18 billion a year, but the real estate value is certainly huge. And so smart investors will try to always analyze what is this real estate worth in the real world if you had to sell it, and they analyze McDonald's not only on their cash flow but on the value of their real estate. And so sometimes people pay too much and sometimes people pay too little.
Yeah, so that's why I choose McDonald's. Other than I have their nuggets every night.
Do you?
I mean, it's great.
No.
I mean, every couple nights because like, a lot of time, like, I want something that's quick. If I have rice, it's gonna be messy. I have to sit there and eat it. I'm gonna be fat. I just have nuggets, just finger foods, and then just call it a
You
day.
get a kid's meal.
Yeah, just like a 6-piece nuggets. Yeah.
Man, I used to, when you have kids, also, like when you have little kids, they love McDonald's. So unless you're like, and McDonald's are everywhere. So if you're going on a road trip,
Mm-hmm.
you're not going to look for like the healthy vegan choice on the turnpike when your kids are crying. Like you're
Right.
going to, oh, there's a McDonald's, pull over. And
Right.
just everything. I feel so, starting around the age of 24, if I could only eat at McDonald's once a month, and my friend and I would make a big deal of it. It was the day we would eat at McDonald's. And I would just order like two small hamburgers and fries.
Oh, those are
and
so
I'd
good
feel like
too.
so bloated.
I love
I
them.
couldn't
I
handle
know.
it.
I know. Well, okay. Back to the topic. So
Yes.
So yes, I mean,
Jay,
like,
bringing it back on course.
yeah, because like, I mean, I'm just curious about the supply chain ever, because like, supply chain is almost like how the world
So,
is
so,
run.
but Jay,
but-
I'm to really answer your question, the reason why McDonald's is the choice is of all franchises,
Mhm.
that's the safest. So
Right.
McDonald's is going to make sure you're not going to fail. I mean, again, they own 14,000 and only 200 closed, and those 200 were almost all in Walmarts. So
Right.
your franchise is not going to close. So
Yeah, even with the supply chain issues.
yeah, and by the way, if you have a drive-through, McDonald's did a lot of business through drive-through, so that didn't get affected during the pandemic. And you could do delivery. So we have Uber Eats. Everybody could get delivery.
Right. So you would choose McDonald's then?
I would have chosen, if I was Mark Zuckerberg, I would have chosen McDonald's because I think college, it's like, by the way, it's like Warren Buffett said, invest in yourself, because also you're going to invest in the things you love doing. Like if you love photography and you want to be a photographer, you're not going to necessarily learn photography in college, but if you
Right.
take photography courses and spend your day taking photographs, doing what you love, you'll learn the skills for it. You'll develop your talent. You'll very quickly get to the point where you can monetize it. So I don't think he's necessarily saying go to college, and going to college and taking some random course is not going to invest in myself. But I feel like going to McDonald's, I could read the books anyway. And like, why do I have to pay tuition to read books? And I'll be I'll run a business, make salary, and learn business skills are really hard. You have to learn to be a good businessman. There's no talent at it. Like you have to learn, marketing. You have to have ideas. You have to be a good manager, a good leader. You have to motivate people. You have to know how to negotiate. You have to know how to execute properly and consistently. And like you can't have you can't have like weird shaped pizzas, for instance. There's a lot of skills to business that I think probably took me a good 10 years of being in business to learn these skills. And I didn't, in part, it was slow because I didn't really love business, but you have to learn them to survive, or else you can't be a businessman. You can't be an entrepreneur. So you start learning these skills by owning a McDonald's franchise. And then if you want to, learn computer programming, go to Code Academy, and you don't need like Harvard's courses because they might not teach you anything useful in real life. Oh my gosh, I love these clothes. Mizzen and Main. That's Mizzen and Main. It really is the most comfortable work clothes. Travel clothes. I had to travel this whole week. I'm traveling for a week and a half, and I just took Mizzen and Main clothes with me. Close out 2023 in style with comfortable, breathable, packable, and machine washable pieces from Mizzen and Main. As you wrap up your year-end goals, enjoy a Mizzen and Main dress shirt that you can wear confidently. I like that they've very, very just nice, solid colors. I don't really like to get all fancy in patterns and everything, although they do have some pattern shirts, but very comfortable clothes, stretchable pants. It's just super comfortable, but they look professional, and you can wear them casually or professionally. I like some of their flannel shirts or untuck shirts. I love untuck. I never tuck in. So again, whether you're shopping for a special someone or giving yourself the gift you really want, I just buy myself gifts. Mizzen and Main is the perfect gift for any guy who works, travels, and cares about looking and feeling great. As you could tell by my many photos across the internet, I care about looking fantastic. I'm practically a model. And let's be honest, every guy loves to look great. So again, shop now at mizzenandmain.com and save 20% when you spend $130 or more using promo code James. That's promo code James at Mizzen and Main, Mizzen and Main.com. You know what I love about fantasy sports is that even though I'm not going to be a great basketball player or a baseball player or a football player or whatever, I feel like I get to participate and make decisions and use my knowledge of these different leagues or these different sports to compete. So it's like I can pick my team or I can pick my favorite players and I could use my knowledge to make predictions and maybe even make money. So with the basketball season here, you can now pick combo projections across football and basketball from the Specials League on Prize Picks. This is a league created specifically for combo projections that include two or more players from different sports or leagues. Want to play alongside some of Prize Picks' favorite players like rapper Meek Mill and comedian Andrew Schultz, who's also been a guest on this podcast, and I've been a guest on his? You can now find community plays under the promos tab of the app to view entries for some of the biggest names in the Prize Picks community each week. Look, Prize Picks even offers a reboot policy so that your entries stay in play even if one of your players gets injured. For football and basketball games, if you have a player who exits the game in the first half and does not return in the second, that player is rebooted. Prize Picks is the only daily fantasy sports platform with an injury insurance policy. What? So I love playing it. I love anywhere where I can use analytical ability with my interests to demonstrate some skill and maybe make some money. And I like the game-like aspect. I do wish they had chess as a category on prizepicks.com, but I'll settle for what they've got. Maybe I should make my own fantasy chess league. But in any case, I love Prize Picks. Go to prizepicks.com/James. Use code James for a first deposit match up to $100. That's the easiest $100 you're ever going to make. So that's prizepicks.com/James and use code James. Daily fantasy sports made easy. The future of learning is definitely online. Like, it's such BS that you have to spend $200,000 or take $200,000 in loans and go to some fancy school when it's useless. It doesn't guarantee you a job. Most employers, including me, do not care about degrees or grades or anything like that. We want to care that you love what you're doing, that you know what you're doing, in some cases that you have experience or that you're willing to learn. But people in general love learning and are curious. Like, the key to success is curiosity. And I think masterclass.com is the perfect model for online learning. I'm really happy they're sponsoring this episode. If you're going to give a gift, give the gift of learning. Masterclass makes a meaningful gift this season for you and anyone on your list, because both of you can learn from the best to become your best, from leadership to effective communication to cooking. Let me tell you some of the classes I've taken. I've taken comedy from Steve Martin. I mean, can you believe I can take a class from Steve Martin on comedy, or Judd Apatow, my favorite comedy director? I could take an actual class from him on writing. Wolfgang Puck on cooking. Dan Brown on writing, or Judy Bloom, who's been on this podcast, on writing. By the way, Wolfgang Puck also has been on this podcast. It's such a pleasure. I try to take classes all the time from masterclass.com. And whether you're watching Masterclass on TV or listening in audio mode in the app or on their site, the quality speaks for itself. It's like these Masterclass instructors are your own personal mentors that are going to help you reach the next level. How much would it cost to take one-on-one classes on comedy from Steve Martin or on chess from Gary Kasparov? You just wouldn't be able to do it. But it would cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. With a Masterclass annual membership, it's $10 a month. Memberships start at $120 a year for unlimited access to one-on-one classes with all 180 plus Masterclass instructors. So it's not just $120 for one instructor. You get all 180 plus Masterclass instructors. boost your confidence, and find practical takeaways you can apply to your life and at work. And if you own a business or are a team leader, use Masterclass to empower and create future-ready employees and leaders. That's the real education in today's world. So this holiday season, you can give one annual membership and get one free at masterclass.com/JAS. JAS, of course, stands for the James Altucher Show. So right now you can get 2 memberships for the price of one at masterclass.com/JAS. Masterclass.com/JAS. Offer terms apply.
Right. I guess Harvard is good if you're like, oh, I want to be a is it doctor? Like the Harvard like give doctor degrees.
When's the last time you asked your doctor where he went to college?
Well, I mean, I would still be, I will, be very relieved if I know my doctor actually has a college degree or like a doctor degree. You know,
Okay.
I don't want a random people just operate on me. And also, like if he if he want to be like Dr. Brian Keating, be like a physicist or whatever, he still have to go to Harvard, right?
All right. That's an exception. If you want to be a
Right.
professor, you got to go to
Right.
college and graduate school.
Right. If you already know you want to be like a
Doctor.
doctor,
Or
yeah.
not, but that's the law.
Professions, yeah.
Like, so I would suggest that shouldn't be the law. So somebody once asked me, I was at a networking dinner, and someone who was like deputy mayor of New York or whatever was at this dinner and said, oh, well, what if you had a choice? What if your brain surgeon didn't have a medical degree? Wouldn't you rather your brain surgeon, had a medical degree from Harvard? And I'm like, no, I just want to know my brain surgeon has done 1,000 successful brain surgeries.
Right.
Like,
right.
So what if he graduated from Harvard? Maybe he's like some drug addict and all his brain surgeries fail. Like,
Well, but
that should not be the criteria.
right, but to have the first surgery, you still have to like know the basic.
First off, you could maybe there's an apprentice system, and so you assist another good surgeon in surgeries. Maybe that's a better way to do it anyway.
Right. See, okay. Now I have questions for you both. You both have kids, two different kids. Like, think about your kids. What would your kids choose? I mean, like your kids that age too.
Okay, yeah. So Robyn, let me ask you this, and then Jay, I'll ask you a second. For your kids, let's say you were able. Would you make this offer to your kids? Let's say you had the money to make this offer, and you were so inclined. Would you make the offer to your kids? Okay, you can either go to Harvard for 4 years, or I will buy you a McDonald's franchise.
I like that you asked if, because this is what happening right now. I'm pretty sure, right?
Yeah, well, all
Robyn?
our kids are college age.
Yeah. So
5 kids.
Well, I guess I would give them a choice because I want them to be happy. So
I don't quite believe you. I think you would want them to go to Harvard.
well, I did want, yeah. I mean, my kids, I wanted them to go to school,
Why?
to college.
right.
Even though you've read, even before you met me, you read all my stuff about don't send your
Not
kids
all
to college.
colleges, but I mean, if there are certain colleges that I feel like it gives them an opportunity to network, meet people, have time to grow, experiment.
With drugs and sex? Go on.
No, just to see what they like. And at 18, it's really difficult to figure out what your passions are. So I feel like giving them an opportunity to explore is a good, healthy thing.
But don't you think like school, even first off, Harvard in particular, is not real life? Like, let me ask you this. After you left college, in college, you're friends with everybody who's still your age. So when you're 20 years old, you're friends with other 20-year-olds. When you're 21, your friends are 21, and so on. But after college, since you've been 22 years old, when have you ever been most of your friends were your age ever since then?
Right. No, that's, I think never.
Yeah. Like it's not the real world. And then,
But it's
you don't-
opportunity. I feel like when you go to a really top university, you're around other people that you might not have an opportunity to be around. You know,
That's true,
and
but-
you
but-
are
Right.
what you always tell me. You are the average of the 5 people that you.
5 people, yeah.
Yeah, 5 other college students who might be, blowing off classes and experimenting with drugs and whatever.
Well,
So I'm not convinced that college, the original reason for college, and look, we're going to talk more about this because we're going to do an episode of I Was Wrong, focusing on
this is
college.
not-
So maybe we should postpone some of this discussion. But I did give my kids the choice of, here's the choice I gave them. I said to Josie, I will either pay for all of your college or I will just give you the tuition in cash. But during those 4 years, you have to watch a movie with me every day. And we discuss the movie afterwards.
See, it would be funny if you did that to other person's daughter.
That would be like them weird. Like, you want to watch a movie every day with a 17-year-old? Like, what?
what about working? Wasn't that
Yeah.
part of the
In
deal
retrospect, I should have said, go to flippa.com. Thank you for sponsoring us, Flippa. Go to flippa.com and buy an online business, and I will pay for it.
Yeah.
Like, if it's within the same price as tuition. Or if they wanted to buy a McDonald's franchise, yeah. Or even better, a Subway franchise, I would do that for them. I would, and they have to do that for 4 years. Because I think you're not going to stop an 18-year-old or a 19-year-old from making friends. They're going to go, buy a franchise in a city. They're going to make friends. And again, we'll talk more about college and what we ended up doing with our kids in an episode coming out probably in about a week or so. But, I see kids, sometimes they have more friends from work than from school. So, they're not going to not make friends if they're social creatures.
Yeah.
Right. So what I would do is I'll still give them choices, but I wouldn't say Harvard. I would give them like choices like, McDonald's, but I would give them the choices that I would give them as the Harvard and the school that's overseas, like maybe in Europe or Asia. Because if
Fair
I
enough.
want, if
Give
they
them
want
more
to go,
bullshit choices and see what they
Yeah.
choose.
if they want to go to school, they will have to go to somewhere they can rely on anyone. They have to survive on
Right.
their own. Like, so let's say if you're
That's
like
the
as a
key.
foreigner, like I have to survive on my own in terms of like I have to figure out what's the law here. The law is different everywhere, and I have to make sure that I wouldn't get
survived.
into trouble.
Yeah, Jay,
and
honestly, you're making a good point, which we'll discuss further in the I Was Wrong episode of college. But like, Jay, you're a great example where you left your country and you came to America, which is a very brave thing to do, to leave behind everybody
Thank you.
and English was not you had trouble with English at first. I'm assuming that's true because sometimes you have trouble with English now.
Yeah, what is English right now?
No, I'm just kidding. You're great. Not. But but the other thing is, Jay, you went to a school, you did invest in yourself because you went to a school that's focused on your
Yep.
passion, which is, music and audio engineering. Like you
Yep.
really, you did not waste your years in college.
Nope.
You built, how much of what you do now do you think, or not even what you do now, but what got you here is because of what you learned in college?
Oh yeah, for sure. It's everything because like I went to recording arts school, so it's all about audio, like live sounds, post productions, music recording, everything audio. And then on top of that, all the troubleshooting stuff is just what I learned along the way. It's like a package that come along with it.
See, that's smart, and I think American kids. I don't want to say they're spoiled because that implies other things as well. But I think the average American is so used to, oh well, I could afford college because there's student loans and there's this and that and it's expected of me. So
Yep.
American kids are kind of forced to just go to a generic college and then they get in. They don't understand debt, so they get into huge debt. I mean, student loan
Yep.
debt has gone up faster than inflation for 45 years in a row, and now it's at the highest level ever. I something like $15 trillion of student loan, or maybe a little less than that. But I forget the number. But I remember one time I was on a podcast. I went on Alexis Ohanian's podcast. He's the founder of Reddit. He's married to Serena Williams right now. And
Right.
afterwards, we were just chatting, and he told me he studied European history in college. And I'm like, oh yeah, when was Charlemagne born? And now people who listen to this podcast know I've asked that question before. Nobody ever gets it right within 500 years, except for listeners of this podcast.
Right.
And so he said something like, 1350. And I'm like, no, you majored in European history. That was like your major, like that, all your courses were in that. And, Charlemagne unified Europe after the Roman Empire collapsed. He's the most important emperor in European history. Most people believe 754, like in the dark age, not 1330, this 754. So he was off by almost 600 years. And he's the founder of Reddit, which is like, amasses all the information on the planet. But, you know, I just don't think people really remember and it's not because they have bad memories, and it's not because there's bad teachers. It's just when you take 18 classes and stuff, you don't really you only remember things that you focus on and that you love. I only remember things that I focus on and that I love doing. And even then, it's hard work to remember. Yeah. If you have to remember a musical piece, you've got to practice it for days, weeks, months, depending on how hard it is. And even then, you might mess up if you're performing it in a performance, even if you're a professional musician.
Yeah, that's why I still good at what I do, because like what I learned in school, I use it every day in my work.
And you loved it. Like you chose to leave your country and go to this unknown school in northern Florida that no one's ever heard of before to learn, but it was probably a great school. It was like the Harvard of audio engineering, for all I know. That's the only place where you're able to learn it. And was it expensive? How expensive was it?
It's pretty expensive. It was a year. And then it was like $75K.
How many years did you have to go?
Only a year.
Oh, only a year. So
it's a expedited, like an express. So like I have associate degrees. So I'm not like smart like any other people.
No, but okay,
it is.
You might be
That doesn't make you
smarter. You might be smarter because you were smart and you didn't spend the money. Like a bachelor's degree, whether it's a shitty school or a good school, if it's not a public school, it's about the tuition's about $70,000 a year. Harvard $70,000 a year, and bullshit college let me just check. Like,
I have to say, like the 75,000 including housing as well. It wasn't like the full tuition.
Right. So you spent 1/4 of what the average U.S. student spends. You didn't get it. Maybe you got into debt, but you certainly didn't get into as much debt. Nope. And you learned a skill that you loved and a skill that you were then immediately able to apply to a career. Yeah. And 3 years where other people would just be attending classes and forgetting them, you actually started making money. Now, I'm not completely correct on all this, which will, again, I'm teasing we have this sub-series called I Was Wrong that we just started, and the first episode was about home ownership. I'm not completely wrong, but I'm admitting some areas where I was very much wrong, and the same thing's going to come up with college. But in general, Jay, I think I know somebody who went to Cornell. The first 2 years, he went to community college, got the associate's degree, and then he transferred to Cornell his last 2 years so he could get the Ivy League degree, but with almost one half the price that the other students did. That I'm not saying he was smart or stupid, but that seems like a smarter way to do it.
And also a lot of people like sort of just brush off trade school. Trade school is actually pretty smart way to go. Like, if you don't want, if you don't know what to do, you can always go to trade school first because you learn a trade like electrical engineering or whatever.
Yeah, like there's a whole marketing scam that says, oh, you should go to Harvard instead of like a trade school. But like, okay, the average Harvard student makes $90,000 when they graduate, and they're probably $200,000 in debt. So now the question is, did Mark Zuckerberg make the right choice?
It seems like he did. He did the Facebook now.
Well, don't forget, this is in hindsight. We know he started a $1 trillion company.
But he was in the right place at the right time, and he started that at Harvard. I mean,
right. So like thinking about it, like how do you think Mark Zuckerberg? What do you think Mark Zuckerberg was thinking about when he was 18 and his dad? By the way, his dad offered them.
He didn't graduate.
Right. Mark Zuckerberg left after a second year. So Randy Zuckerberg, his sister, and I think he's got 2 other siblings. They were all offered the same option, and of course they all chose Harvard or college or whatever. But I think his dad's name is Edward. I think Edward Zuckerberg. I'll call him Ted. I think Ted made a really kudos to Ted for making such a fascinating offer. But what was going through Mark Zuckerberg's head, do you think, when he was made that offer?
I think he just. Well, first of all, I don't think Mark Zuckerberg is human anymore. I think he's just robot. So he's just computing what his possibility going to be. I think that's it. I mean, like, do you think he's? I mean,
okay. So tell me what he was computing.
He probably just think about, okay, how much fun and how much girls that I can meet, like, because that's what 18 years kids want to,
Okay, that probably
right?
was what he was saying. He probably thought, but you don't think when he's making $200,000 a year at a McDonald's franchise that he's not going to roll large in the club? And
Well, yeah, but the thing is, like, at the same time, I think there was a interesting experiment. I think Michio Kaku did or someone else did. It's like if you put a cookies in front of a kid and then you ask him, if you eat right now, you can have this cookie, but if you wait for like half an hour, you can get another piece of cookies. But most of the kids will go for the cookies right there and then. So that's probably what's go through his mind, is that like he want that money and go to school right away, or something like that. I could be wrong.
Well, what else do you think was going? Well, first off, I want to just point out something. What you just said. You said Michio Kaku did an experiment with cookies. Michio Kaku didn't. Michio Kaku is a quantum physicist,
right.
and he's not an experimentalist. He
Right.
specializes in string theory. He's never done an experiment in his life, so
Right.
he's not a social psychologist who does experiments like that. I think you
Right.
fell for the bias where you take words that sound the same and think that they're somehow related. Michio
That's why
Kaku
English- But
there was-
experimenting with cookies.
Cookies. That's why English is my second language.
Listen, my deep apologies to Michio Kaku, who's been on 4 or 5 of our podcasts. Jay, he just fell for a cognitive bias. So we
Yes.
really, on behalf of the James Altucher Show, Michio, you're always welcome. Let's talk Star Trek and if the teleportation machine is possible in string theory next time you're on. But yeah, you're right. So
There was a test.
yeah, yeah.
But it wasn't.
So yeah, what else do you think he was computing? I mean, certainly he was computing money. So
Right. Money and women. Like if you're 18 years old, I'm pretty sure. Like back then, now maybe different. Now it's like now if you're 18 years old, you think about BLM, you think about all these rights, you think about the environment issues and all this stuff and political stuff. But back then,
Mark
in the
Zuckerberg was
90s
clearly not thinking about any of that. He could care less, even if he was
Yeah.
right now. So
Right.
he's just thinking about money. So let's say he's thinking about
Right.
money. What do you think he's computing? And he sees the average person, he could make like 200,000 or 300,000 a year and build a franchise business, so make even more. So he saw that on one side, the McDonald's side. What do you think he saw on the college side?
I wonder if on the college side he was just thinking about the status. Because if you go to like back then, right now maybe less so. Back then, if you say you go to Harvard, you graduated for Harvard, you have that status. Like you came out like I went
Well,
to
it opens doors for you.
it opens doors for you, and also like you feel like you're higher class, too.
Right. And I think you're right, particularly with Harvard, by the way. I
Right.
think Harvard is the main school in the US that it opens doors for you, because there's like kings that go to Harvard and
Right.
and the people who are going to run Wall Street and whatever, they're going to Harvard right now.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Mark Zuckerberg also thought, look, I'm probably an above average computer programmer. He probably thought to himself, I'm very entrepreneurial, and tech entrepreneurship ultimately does make more than McDonald's entrepreneurship. And so he probably figured that even though the odds are that he could make less than a McDonald's, or even though there was some percentage chance he could make less than a McDonald's franchise owner in the long run, he probably also tried to calculate the odds that he would make significantly more, like millions and millions of dollars more than a McDonald's franchise owner. And he probably figured he already had a skill set that could make millions, so double down on that by going to Harvard, making the connections, and so on. So I do think he probably I think he probably figured he'd meet a lot more girls at college at Harvard than
Right.
as a McDonald's franchise owner. But
Right.
it did work out well for him. And as you've both noted, he did drop out of Harvard 2 years later after starting a business. So he didn't care about college at all. It was just he saw he did what he set out to do, but he did it earlier than he thought he was going to do. He started Facebook, and then 2 years after he dropped out of college, guess what? Microsoft offered him. I think it was Microsoft. It was either Microsoft or Yahoo.
I think it's Yahoo.
Yeah, I think it was. Yeah, you know what? I think you're right. I think it was Yahoo. I think they offered him. They offered Facebook $1 billion to buy the company. So he was 22 years old. 22 years old, and he owned 25% of Facebook at that time. As a 22-year-old, he said no. He didn't even consider it, and he turned down $250 million for himself personally. From Yahoo. If you were 22 years old, even if you loved what you're doing, would you turn down $250 million?
Well, it's like I said, like he's not a human anymore. He's probably computer by that point. So like that's why he can compute that far. Like if it's me, I wouldn't, because like I don't think I can focus on one business for that. I don't think I can focus on one business for such a long time. I wouldn't be able to focus on one thing for such a long time.
I agree. And, very early on in the podcast, so Peter Thiel came on the podcast. Peter Thiel was the first investor in Facebook. And so Peter Thiel was on the board. Now, let's not forget, Peter Thiel, when he sold PayPal, which was just a few years earlier, he made $75 million. So he probably would have made more than that he invested in $500,000 in Facebook, and he probably would have made more than he made on PayPal by selling Facebook for $1 billion. So he really wanted Mark Zuckerberg to take the deal. Peter Thiel wasn't yet a billionaire. And he said to Mark, why aren't you taking it? You're going to be worth $250 million. You could start another business if you want. And Mark Zuckerberg he said to me, Mark Zuckerberg said to him, what am I going to do with this money? I'm just going to sit around and program and make another social network and do this all over again. But, I'm already doing it. So why would I, and I guess, look, I wrote an article, as I've mentioned before on the podcast, I wrote an article that week saying he was smart by not taking it because, it's going to be worth $100 billion at some point. And 5 years after I wrote that in the Financial Times, of course, it IPO'd, and that day it hit $100 billion in value.
Right.
I remember one time I ran into, God, what's his name? Not the Winklevoss brothers, but remember there was a third guy that was working with them?
Was it Edward?
No.
No, Edward left, right?
No, that was the one who was working with Mark, but there was somebody working with the Winklevoss twins, the Indian guy.
Oh, no, he started a SPAC company.
Yeah,
or whatever
Divya
his name is.
Narendra. So I ran into Divya, and he said to me, actually, Facebook stock at that point was going down. This was like a few months after the IPO. It actually was below the IPO price for a while. And he said, do you really think, he says, I don't know what to do. I might sell my Facebook stock. Because, he won all sorts of stock in the lawsuit, along with the Winklevoss twins. And he said to me, should I sell? And I'm like, look, I don't know what you should do, but I think Facebook's going way, way up from here. And I don't know what he did. I never saw him again, and I never saw him before that. But I hope he held on to his shares because they were worth, 10 times more or 5 times more than what they were worth then. And I think he had $20 million worth of stock, so maybe he has $100 million worth of stock now.
Seems like he's doing pretty well. I mean, now he just started another company to help. It's called a SPAC or whatever it's called.
Oh yeah, let me look him up. I haven't.
Yeah, but like if it's me, like I would like I mentioned before, like I wouldn't be able to like just sit there and keep doing what I do. I'm the type of person like to do like different things. Like even though I'm producing the show, engineering for the show on the side, I still do streaming. I still do, yeah. You have like you said, you have to have multiple stream of income.
I agree. I was just kidding with you.
Like I mentioned before, like I wouldn't be able to focus on one thing. I would need to do different things
So
brush
Zuckerberg
up.
obviously he loved maybe running Facebook. He wanted to focus on it. Maybe he loved other things about it other than that it was a social network. Maybe he loved being the king of the hill of the company, and maybe he thought he saw more potential with it. And the money didn't lure him. He knew maybe he had a lot of confidence that he would make it at least that much, if not 20 times more. And look, it's good he didn't accept the $250 million, because what's Mark Zuckerberg's net worth right now? Let me ask his competitor, Google. Mark Zuckerberg net worth $121 billion. Holy moly! I remember for like decades, Bill Gates was the richest guy on the planet with like 30 billion, 40 billion, 50 billion. Now Mark Zuckerberg is worth 121 billion, and he's not even in the top 3 richest people on the planet.
Right.
I mean, I think Elon Musk is worth over 200 billion. Jeff Bezos is 191 billion. Bernard Arnault, who's the head of LVMH, the clothing company, I guess, he's worth 173 billion. So yeah, Mark Zuckerberg's just a chump with 121 billion. So maybe he should have done that McDonald's franchise.
Well, I'm just curious, like if he's also like, if he also like he has a safety net, like maybe the parents are rich or something like that.
Maybe, yeah. So maybe he wasn't really sweating it. Like, Dad, I don't want to make $200K a year. You're worth like $5 million.
Right.
I think his dad's like a lawyer or something. So maybe he didn't really think about, maybe that gave him an option to always go for it. So Robyn, would you have, if Yahoo offered you $250 million for your company, would you have taken it? Even though you thought that there maybe was potential for it to grow much more?
I probably would not have taken it.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Tell me why.
That's just how I roll.
Yeah, you do. I have to say, whenever someone says something could be worth X, you think it could be worth at least twice that. You're always
not
willing,
all the time, but I do believe that if I believe in something. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna play poker with Robyn.
Well, with Robyn, if the people are good, you place a lot of weight on the people, and that's really important in business. Yes. And if there's momentum happening, so like everybody loves what you're doing, you're gonna just keep. And if you love it, you're just gonna keep doing it. I see you making the same choice. I 100% would have taken the money, 1,000 million %. But here's the thing: I would have made all the opposite choices of Mark Zuckerberg, which maybe and I think those are the correct choices to make, just statistically. Because how many people, like there was a social network before Facebook called Friendster.
Oh, yeah, Friendster.
And
that
Friendster
sucks.
could have sold for like $100 million, but they didn't. They decided to keep going. And then they went out of business and they made nothing. And, a similar company is, what's that company where you used to check in all your location?
Foursquare?
Foursquare, yeah. Does Foursquare even exist still? Like,
I think it still exists. It got bought by other company, I think. I could be wrong. Let me look it up.
A few months after they started, Yahoo again offered them $100 million. Like, what happened to Foursquare?
It's still around, apparently.
I remember I found an email the other day where they wrote me for their seed investment. Hey, we're this company. We did this. It's called Foursquare. Do you want to invest? And I didn't even respond to it. But I
think they did change their business model. Maybe
I think a common theme for me is that I'm making the opposite decisions that everyone else is making, and maybe look, right. Mark Zuckerberg obviously made the right decisions. In hindsight, he's worth $120 billion. Facebook has 2 or 3 billion users, but I don't know. Maybe I feel like Warren Buffett's advice. It's like spend time on what you love doing. And I feel at the McDonald's franchise, I could have explored more what I love doing, and I would have had the money to do it at an early age. I didn't have any money at all until I was 27, and I was totally broke with $0 in my bank account. Of course, I would have taken $250 million. But listener, what would you think about these choices? Maybe offer these choices to your children and see how they would respond. My kids, I offered it to them all the time. They never listened to me. We'll talk more about that. But I think Mark Zuckerberg made brave choices. Robyn, I think you would have made a brave choice. Jay, I think you made really great choices in your own life.
Oh, thank you.
Maybe I didn't make such a great choice for you, but nobody offered me these choices anyway. So anyway, think about it. Listener, I hope this was interesting. Send us a tweet. You know what? If you like this, it really helps. Follow us on Apple Podcasts. Leave a review. Leave 5 stars or 4 stars or 6 stars, whatever it is.
Right.
Write to Uber and tell them to give me a good Uber rating if you can. No, I have a really good Uber rating. One person who used to work on this podcast but doesn't anymore had a horrible Uber rating because his girlfriend kept bringing her dog onto the Ubers. But and then I don't know what else she would do, but that has nothing to do with this choice. So McDonald's or Harvard, $0 or $250 million. You decide. Good luck. Thanks for listening.
Thank you.
Entresto, sacubitril valsartan tablets, is the #1 heart failure brand prescribed by cardiologists and has helped over 1 million people with heart failure. It's a prescription medicine that treats adults with long-lasting chronic heart failure and works better when the heart cannot pump a normal amount of blood to the body.
Don't take Entresto if pregnant. It can cause harm or death to an unborn baby. Don't take Entresto with an ACE inhibitor or aliskiren, or if you've had angioedema with an ACE or ARB. Don't take with aliskiren or within 36 hours of taking an ACE inhibitor. The most serious side effects are angioedema, low blood pressure, kidney problems, or high blood potassium. Angioedema is swelling of your face, lips, tongue, and throat that may cause death. If it causes difficulty breathing, get emergency help.
Ask your doctor about Entresto. To learn more, visit support.entresto.com or call 833-446-6699. For pricing, visit Entresto.com/cost. If you can't afford your medication, Novartis may be able to help.